Welcome. Hello, everyone. Good grand rising. Good, all of that good energy. Thank you guys for joining me this morning, today, to talk about leadership. And I know when you heard the title, you guys were all ready to just jump right in there to that leadership. I know leadership just like stirs up some vibration and you like, yes, leadership is right now. And I'm grateful for that. I believe this is a time that we are being required and being called to lead, and not about who we lead, but more importantly, leading ourselves. Because the first person that we are to lead directly and empower and uplift and connect is ourselves first. And then everyone that is supposed to follow will follow. So I am Nikki Powerhouse. Thank you again for joining me here, Workshop Wednesday with Nikki Powerhouse. This is the first of me being online, as we all have needed to pivot and change and shift and so forth. I'm an artist. I am live in your face. I am an actress, a poet, a playwright. I love the stage, and the stage absolutely loves me. It challenged me, it stretches me, but I wouldn't give it up for nothing in this world. As an artist, I realized over these past year and a half, I had to really dig deep within myself to find that leader beyond the role. In acting, they say, first and foremost, don't act. And you're like, what? What do you mean don't act when you perform? But because leadership is requirement beyond the performance. It's about taking and making sure that you show up full on. And it's first and foremost about you showing up. That's the first impactful experience to when you show up to lead. Leadership is about everybody, everyday leading. And everything in our lives is being required for us to show up and leading with our whole hearts, leading with our confidence, leading with our self-value, leading with our purpose. I think that one of the things that I've continued to learn in this moment of pandemic and shifting is that you always have something to give. As much as so much has been taken, we always have to remind ourselves that we have something to give. And as an artist, I find that it's so much important to remember that, because of the fact that no matter what medium that you use to share your message, always remember that there is a message that's going to translate and be impactful no matter where it's being funneled through. Leadership. And I think that one of the things, before I go further, I'm going to, because I'm an artist and I'm an actress and I'm a poet, and I miss the stage and I'm like, I need to perform. But I'm going to do a poem now to open up the space to just give you guys, and hopefully to give you guys a feedback with it in terms of what your thoughts and your feelings and what you got from it and so forth. And we're gonna do that. Can I do that? Just give me a thumbs up. I shall. Very good. I bet you have more climb in you than fear. I bet you. But the world out there never inspired you to walk far away from your comfort zone, to create a lane of your own, to build your own table through your blood, sweat, and tears. I bet you there is more power in you than pain. I bet you there's more grace than regret. I bet you there's more for you to give than hold on to. I bet you there's more in you that's waiting to break through. I bet you that there is a leader awaiting to be exactly what you were sent to be. I bet you there are many are watching. I bet you. And you always, always been ready. That's it. Thank you. So we're going to use the chat box, if you will, or you can unmute yourself if you want to speak about your response to what I just read off. But you can use the chat box, but it would be good to hear your voice since I am in the company of leaders. So it would be good to hear your voice. So you can unmute yourself and give your response.
Nikki, what I absolutely loved was the part when you said about leadership is giving more than you get. I mean, that's like, you don't look at leadership that way, but I think that that's something that would strike a lot of people, that's really what you're doing, right? You're giving more than you get. And I think that if you look at everything you do, not just being a leader, but everything in life, it all comes back in your good graces, doesn't it?
I think that one of the things that we oftentimes think about in terms of giving, our gift is in the giving. And I think that when you give more than what you actually get back, or you give more because there's always more to give. I think that when we realize how effective giving is, you're all in the process of the giving, you always getting something
right
in response, because we learn from our giving.
Right.
And I think that it's essential leadership, not as the politics or in business, but your own personal walk, your own personal thrive, your own personal movement of what it really means to wake up and lead with your whole heart, to lead with a sense of, I belong here. Mm-hmm. I am a necessity here. I'm essential here. And when you lead with that understanding, you lead with that flow, then you get others. That's how you inspire leaders. And that's how you bring people to tap into things within themselves, because of the fact that the gift of giving from a place of your wholeness brings back and gives others to inspire to bring into their own wholeness. So we're just now gifting each other. Mm-hmm. I say. One of the things I wanted to, I can't see the chat room. So at this, while I'm talking, so it will be, you guys will have to like respond and say something. Otherwise, I'm just going to just keep going. If no one jumps in and be like, hey, I got a question, or I want to respond to that comment. Okay. What else can I say? Okay. So go ahead.
I thought the poem was so moving. It really touched me, and your delivery was incredible. But I just, to Karen's point, I love just that you can be a leader in your own home. You don't have to be leading the country, that there's so many opportunities for us all to hone our skills and be a leader. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm not a politics type of person. And we know that politics is definitely one that we have been challenged in terms of who leads us and who needs to jump in. But it's important that's why I think that when I was thinking about leadership, I thought about, well, wait a minute, how do I show up? What leads me? What am I led by? And having that being the forefront, and And it's not about really about how many, I mean, when we talk about followers, it's not about how many people follow you. It's more important about what was placed inside of you. And I think when we talk about that, that is so oftentimes when we realize what that really entails, which I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to ask one question is, if we were to describe leadership in 3 words, if you guys could answer that, just give me 3 words to describe leadership. Hey.
I don't know. I almost feel like leadership can be a feeling, right? It's a feeling of how you are when you present yourself to others, or even how you view yourself.
And I think it has to be forward thinking, looking ahead to the future.
Here we go. Hold on a second. Nikki dropped out. She just came back in. Are you with us, Nikki?
What happened?
That's okay. That's right. We started talking. I said, I thought, oh, you're sideways. You need to turn your camera, hon.
Wait.
There we go. I said leadership was a feeling. And Lesley, what did you say?
I said that I thought it had to be forward thinking, and I also wanted to say thoughtful.
Yep.
And
For
you
me,
said,
Mhm.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead. No, I was just trying to make sure that I got it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, I definitely think leadership has to be authentic and intentional. So those are two key factors for me: authentic and intentional.
When I think of a leader, I sometimes, not necessarily the word leadership, but just the word leader in and of itself, I think of somebody that's very direct, kind in their directiveness, and is just direct and honest about what's going on and what they need, rather than, beating around the bush, because that's not really helping anybody. That's not being a leader. So that's like the first thing that comes to my mind, is just, if there is an issue that arises, being direct about it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, from which is all great, which is all essential to forward thinking, authentic, feeling, out of all of those different statements, and anyone can answer this, how do you, in your own individual life, connect to that? Like, how does feeling is connected to you, or how does the authentic being, how does those things connect to you in your own personal walk as being seen as a leader, if being seen as a leader?
Nikki, I always felt like leadership was caring about others. And it's like, it almost goes back to what you said before, like about giving more than you get. Like one of the aha moments I had with being a leader was when I connected 2 people that needed something that the other had to offer, but I didn't get anything out of it, and I didn't need anything out of it. And I actually felt so great afterwards, because I made something happen for 2 people that did. So that was like a feeling of helping others.
Excellent.
And I agree,
excellent.
Karen. Leading with kindness, caring about people, and showing them the right way, or hopefully showing them the right way to the path, because it's not just the path, it's how you get there. That's so important. Not imposing your will, but helping somebody find their best path. Because imposing your will is not really helping anybody, but helping them to find the best they can be is being a leader to me.
I love that. Find their best.
And also,
Oh, go ahead, Ma.
Also, listening and trying to get a sense of where people are at and meeting them where they're at.
Mhm, mhm. Correct, correct. I think, you know, when you guys say finding the best of a person and meeting them where they're at is, I would say that that was probably what the groundwork is. That's how people get built up from the ground up. Because when you inspire people to feel, as we have said, to feel a sense of connection to their own, to their best. Because that's how leaders are not without doubting themselves. You see, I would beg to differ that leaders is also transparent to what their walk is. And leaders is not defined by what somebody else say that you are. It's more important what you say that you are and what you show up as. You only going to get the best of a person when the person has been connected to their own self to see themselves as the best of what they can give, the best of what they can offer, going back to giving from a place of you always have something to give. And I think that leadership is our everyday walk, whether you are a student, whether you are a parent, especially if you're a parent, because leading by example is everything. Is everything, and you showing up in your authentic self as a parent, as a teacher, as a doctor, as all of these different labels that we call on ourselves, that we label ourselves, we are always being required to walk into our truth, our own being, our own, not in the doing, but being. So when I say that, it's just a matter of like, wow, people are to really embody who they are day to day by leading from a place of goodness, by leading from a place of the best, by leading from a feeling, by leading by in a transparency. I think, and I'm going to shift the ideas, is that leadership is a mindset. Mm-hmm. It's a mindset of set values, of set ideas and set beliefs. Now, of course, we understand that some beliefs people have of themselves may not believe that they could be a leader. And I think that in order to become the best follower, you must be able to see yourself of what you're following. You don't get off the hook because there's something outside of you that you deem to be good. No, you have to know that what you may be inspired by, it has to be because of what you have within yourself. I think that's the idea. The other question I wanted to ask about the mindset, what have you in the last 3 months or so, or any story, like what have you led? What have you in your own personal walk, what have you found yourself leading? And has it been a challenge, or whether it was something that you had that came natural, but what was in your life, or what that looked like for you?
Well, I think all of us at the college have had to lead students on a totally different path due to the pandemic, changing expectations, helping with issues that we really never dealt with before. It turned our world upside down in terms of dealing with students, everything being remote, learning how to navigate a whole new way of operating and leading our students to do that as well. And so I think that has been the challenge of the last 18 months, that we have led ourselves and helped to lead our students. And I think the only other thing I wanted to add when we were talking about leading with our best selves is I think sometimes we can be very harsh on ourselves when our best selves don't measure up to what we would like it to be. And I think we have to remember that we're doing our personal best and that we're all works in progress and we're all learning and trying to extend and lengthen that curve, but just to stay focused on the steps we make rather than to an ideal that may not be possible.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Because I forgot what it was now after listening to her. That was really good.
No. Yeah, thank you. Basically, what story comes to mind in your own personal leadership? What story comes to mind that you had to find in your own personal leadership?
Probably for me, at least, like I'm running horseback riding lessons and horse camps for kids and stuff. And that can be a lot because you're leading it, you're running it, and you have to handle the parents, you have to handle the kids, you have to handle the people that are helping you, and you're working with anywhere from a 400-pound, 1,500-pound animal around little children. So in a sense, I'm the one that's responsible to keep those children safe around those animals. And that has taught me a lot of leadership skills, just because when you're responsible for the safety of other people's kids, it can create a lot more pressure and develop a lot more, I wouldn't say maturity is the right word, but develops a lot more, you're not careless at all when it comes to that. And even though we have fully trained, really safe horses there, you never know what could happen. So your guard always has to be up when you're there. But yeah, so that's one thing that's taught me a lot.
That's good. Thank you, Morgan. Responsibility is everything.
Mhm.
Is everything. It's everything a part of when you were talking about that word and being intentional to being careful. It's one thing about having care for somebody, but when you have the intentionality, like no matter what this is, and no matter how it may seem to be, I'm intending to make sure that this person, myself, and this person is taken care of. And I think that's when, as a leader, when we talk about being responsible for not only yourself, but how a person thinks, being responsible to encouraging a person to feel safe, being responsible to connecting people to feel grounded in your presence, to feel inspired, to give their best, if you will. So I think that's imperative in our walk when we talk about the mindset of leadership and having that mindset of being responsible to something of a greater good, if you will. I think too, what I wanted to also ask is leadership as a service. What do you guys think about like leadership as versus it being a doing? These are things that we need to do, but what is it? How could we see it through a sense of connecting to a service that we give? What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's funny. I grew up with a lot of responsibility in my family. but I never took on roles of leadership. And many of my jobs when I was younger, I had a lot of responsibility, but I never considered myself a leader. And it wasn't really until I hit my middle age and I was kind of embedded in my community that I feel like I really became a leader. And about 10 years ago, I started a community dragon boat team. And for 8 years. And I'd never been on a dragon boat team before. And I just kind of reached out to my entire community and I believed in it so much. I just thought it would be like the best thing for all these women who were not athletes, myself included, and to do something different that wasn't about work or parenting and it was such a joy. And it gave me so much confidence to do other things because it was so satisfying, even with all the challenges and logistics. So I kind of found that when I was older.
That's the beauty of finding that towards the end of my piece, it said, I bet you there is a leader waiting to break free. I think that, leadership is something that we grow into. I believe that we were born with those qualities to make a leader. And so when you said like now, it's the reality that it's always waiting to step out. And when you take acknowledgement of like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is showing up because you declared it as it to be so. But mind you, you probably was doing all that all along the journey. So that's a beautiful awareness. Anyone else?
Nikki, I would like to add, like, I find that leadership to me, like I'm the oldest and I always told everybody what to do. And I felt like I had to do for others. But what I've really learned, especially from the team I work with here at Act 101, and even the students I've had the opportunity to interact with, is that leadership is more about empowering others, right? I want to show them how they're capable of doing it themselves, because I always think about that old, adage, if you give a man a fish, he's full for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he's full for a lifetime, or however that goes. So to me, it's about empowering others and showing them how they can do for themselves. That's how I see leadership as service.
Well, and I was going to add, sort of to piggyback on the earlier question and how Lesley talked about the last 3 months at the college. And, when I think back to my last 3 months as a parent and going through a lot of transition, I have 2 daughters that moved out of state, graduated high school, graduated college, moved out of state, leading through transition, whether it be as a parent, as a leader at work, as a leader in your community, or like leading in service. Communication plays a huge part in that, and how you communicate through transitions is really important. And so that was one thing that just really stood out to me. And same thing with what Morgan said, like how you communicate in instances like where being responsible for other people's children is really important. So that's a huge part of leadership.
Yep. So I was actually gonna add as well really quickly. For me, servant leadership is super important as well. And it's about rolling up your sleeves and being able to do the job, right? Also with the team, kind of being hands-on and, feet on the ground, and not just delegating and telling everyone, like what to do from a higher level, but really being able to guide and mentor, in whatever field it might be, because as everyone mentioned, there are many different ways and fields that you can be a leader, and not just work-wise or personally. There's so many different ways. So it's really just about, rolling up your sleeves and being able to do the, whatever it is as well, and being able to also mentor and guide your people through the journey.
The journey. That's it. That's the, as an artist, I have been blessed and gifted to, I wrote a few years ago, I wrote a one-woman show entitled The Art of I Am. And the idea and understanding is that everyone takes the journey to I am. And one of the things that I, through experience or during the show, is I had to get real comfortable with not only showing up, but I'd show up in my authentic self, in my own personal story. And I think leading with your story is probably the most empowering, because what you are sent, what you're doing is sharing a bit of yourself with other people to inspire them to share a bit of themselves. And I think that that's how we connect people to showing up in their best. But because it was a one-woman show, it didn't stop there. I had to find out, well, what else could I do with this show? And fast forward, I used the one-woman show. I created a workshop, Journey to I Am, with women who were in recovery and homelessness. And I received a grant with the Leadway Foundation. And one of the things that after the experience, because at first it was like, oh, it was a challenge. But one of the things I realized is that when you inspire people to break into their own, to connect to their selves and do their story, it's like, it's almost like a magic is happening before your eyes. And one of the things that I found is that what we did was they seen my one-woman show, and then we did a 6-week workshop, and then they came back to do a rendition of The Art of I Am, but based on their own personal journey. And essentially what that really tells me when I'm thinking about leadership is that I inspired them to feel comfortable enough to feel like they had something to give, even if 3 months prior to meeting me, they were addicted, they had addiction problem, and then they were homelessness. And I say all that to say that it's always imperative to remember the journey. And as leaders in any profession that you do, it's always imperative to remember your journey, and so that you can show up authentic to people that you have responsibility to. So leading with your story is probably the most impactful way to get people to believe in something. More importantly, to believe in themselves. Let me see here. I have, one of the things I think of about leadership too, and is that and when I spoke about earlier about leading every day, if we had a chance to, if we had a chance to lead, what one word would be describe your type of leadership? You know, like what is a word that would encompass your leadership?
Communication.
And why? And why? And why?
Why? Because I think if you don't have communication, you don't have anything.
I would say for me, it's more collaborative.
For me, leadership would be connection, bringing the right people and pieces together.
For me, it would be supportive and trying to support people where they're at to get them to where they want to be.
For me, it's modeling and showing up the way that my showing up to let you know what my expectations are by my movements. So if I'm moving this way, if I'm performing this way, if I'm behaving this way, my expectation is that you will do this as well. So when I ask you to do that, it's not foreign. Like, I'm doing it too. You see me doing it. Let's do this together.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Lead by example, lead in communication, lead collaborative, lead with intentionality. I would urge and bring this to us, a challenge that we do these individual things every day. And we do it with in every situation, because I think this day and this where we are as a community, as a world, we have to show up. Our individual selves needs to be responsible for how we show up every day, and to inspire others to show up in that same way, because we need this type, we need communication. We're not, we need collaboration. We need lead by example. We need intentionality, and we need to be able to see people where they are, because not only do we are we challenged to do that, but we also have to be able to see ourselves where we are. And we know that through this last 2 years, if you will, we've been challenged to see ourselves where we are and still be inspired to keep going, still be inspired to believe in something more, be inspired to do something more, and more importantly, be inspired to be. And I think that that's the leadership that we all have in us, to becoming exactly what we say that we are, and becoming that with an intentionality that no matter what, to be inspired by something so great that no matter what shows up, you showing up with a sense of knowing who you are without question and without a concept of ideas of anything outside of yourself, knowing that you are greater in you, knowing that you are greater in you than no matter what anyone may say or do. Our perceptions change every day, but our mindset of who we are is set. That's where our mindset, when we are set in knowing who we are, our leadership shows up. And that's in everything that you do, Anyone has any comments, questions, or ideas, or anything of that nature?
I was just going to say, I think of leading also with openness and kindness, because although we may be set in who we are, we may not always be quite on target for the population we're leading or trying to work with. So we have to be open to hearing the feedback and not getting too set in our ways, so that we're willing to take in new information and change as it's necessary, not to just stay with a fixed mindset and go from there. And I always feel kindness has to be part of any leadership or any path forward, because that so easily falls out of the picture when you're on a set path, and that just has to remain ever present in your mind.
That's the beauty of it all, is that ever so present, in keeping the presence of what it means to you and how you show up in your mind, in your mind's eye, how you see things with your eyes wide open. Anybody else have a idea, thought, suggestion, question?
I think there's a courageous piece to leadership as well, and having the courage to be a leader in times when it's easy to be quiet or stay silent or look the other way. So I think there are times when being a leader takes courage.
You don't say. And in my transparency, courage is one of the most most challenged, if I'm not challenged, but the most of really constant being challenged to step into the courage.
Absolutely. I'm a
Stepping
big
into it.
proponent of daring leadership and courageous leadership. So I think that's a big part of it.
I love that. And you know what, to go with Christine, I think a leader knows when they need to step back. Sometimes it's just as hard to be the follower, right? And to be able to be acknowledged in that maybe there's another person who has a better way of doing something and I can learn from that person. So, you know, being brave, but also being mindful. And I think Leslie's mentioned that a lot too. So it's full circle, right?
Yeah, full circle. And I think you, as you said, to be able to leading and stepping back, leading and making it is about making the choice of knowing, observing the whole circle and what the circle needs. Because if the intentionality is, I'm here to lead, to give people what they need, then it's like, if that's the need for me to step back, it doesn't take anything away from my leadership. Actually, it adds more to the leadership in me, as well as the people that are following, because it then gives them an opportunity to step into their leadership.
Right.
This is good, y'all. Good morning. I have another piece that I would like to say. It's 10:45, and I will, if there is any more comments or ideas or anything of that nature, you're more than welcome to jump in before I begin my piece. But what I will say is, prior to me doing the piece, is that I encourage you all to identify, to see yourselves every day as leaders, and to see yourself that way, in a way that make clear that you're here to be change agents and to impact and incorporate and communicate who you are daily through your act and through your being. So I encourage all of that, that power that is in you to come out daily. Any comments or thoughts before I begin?
I feel like it's really important to know yourself as a leader, like really know who you are, so that you know how, like, what you're leading through, what you're leading over, what you're leading under, you know, like if I have a hurt in my past that gets in my way and I'm leading, and somehow there's some intersectionality around that, I have to know that that's there and it shows up a certain way so that I can lead through or over or around that, so it doesn't impede me from being able to be the person I need to be. So that being said, I think at the core of it, it's about being, you said transparent, and I felt like vulnerability comes in there, but also self-study and self kind of development is really, really important. If you want to lead people, you gotta keep on training, never stop.
Wow, that was so the piece I'm going to say is from my one-woman show entitled The Art of I Am. And I believe that it's about not only leading through your own self-awareness of who you are, but also leading from where you've come from and who have inspired you and who have uplifted you, and just remembering that. Grandmother Tucker said, my voice and her voice are one. Then I am my great-great-grandmother's laughter. The sound of her voice cradles me in my night dreams, and when I look at her, she inspires me to reach deep down inside me to paint the sky tangerine. Her voice travels through autumn leaves while all the children, we sit under the sycamore tree and we listen with our hearts and mind wide open as she delivers earth messages through rhythmic breaths. She tells me, she tells you, each and every one of you, hand-plucked from heaven's branches and sowed into Mother's Earth's soil to sprout, to bloom. Children, Remember your first name, she said. Children, shaped and saturated in the stars, reflecting perfect light, painted in gold and outlined in silver. Your smile alone is the sunrise, carved into sculptures of undeniable beauty. Children, remember your first name, she said. Your first name is I am. Your last name is brilliant. Your first name is I am. Your last name is powerful. Your first name is I am, your last name is possible. Your first name is I am, your last name is good. Your first name is I am, your last name is enough. Your first name is I am, your last name is everything. Your last name is everything. No matter what you go through, you always will be I am. No matter what you go through, you always become I am. No matter what you become, always I am. I share. Well, thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank
That
you.
was really
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I'm going to stop the recording here.
I see.